Join the pack by clicking the link in the description down below and it'll take you to blackwolfnation.com. Use the discount code F1word at checkout to grab yourself 15% off. Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to my British Grand Prix review. Now it is a little bit later in the week than usual, basically because I didn't get back from Silverstone until well into the afternoon on Monday and only got to watch the race back this morning, and what a race it was. A Grand Prix packed full of action and drama, but before we get on to any of that, let's start by having a look at our race winner. It was Sebastian Vettel who took victory for Ferrari in what was a very well-controlled race, to be fair, certainly early on. A little bit like the Seb of old, he got out front early, a great start to jump Hamilton off the line. He built that early lead and controlled that pace as well. And to be fair to him, he looked racy all day. There were concerns over the durability of the Ferrari's tyre, so he had to make a second pit stop during the race, and that was under the safety car, and in the end that did prove pivotal to the eventual result. But having rejoined behind Valtteri Bottas after that pit stop, he still had to get it done on track, and for the second weekend in a row, Sebastian Vettel, a guy whose critics have said in the past can't race and can't overtake, got his elbows out and pulled a great late move on Valtteri Bottas to take the lead and therefore, of course, the eventual win. It was a great performance from the German all round, to be fair, and all of that despite suffering with neck issues. He also set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:30.696 and takes an 8-point championship lead to his home Grand Prix in Hockenheim. Let's have a look though at the rest of the race result, and it was Lewis Hamilton who finished in second place ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. Obviously I will be talking about both of those in just a moment. Valtteri Bottas ended up fourth. The tyre gamble for Mercedes didn't really pay off. He said that himself after the race, suffered with the degradation towards the end and fell away very quickly. Daniel Ricciardo, Red Bull probably disappointed with the weekend, but fifth place is realistically the best they could have hoped for, particularly with that power deficit. Nico Hülkenberg in the Renault, he finished in 6th place. Esteban Ocon finished in 7th place for Force India. Some very good points there for them. Fernando Alonso, 8th place for him. Kevin Magnussen finished in 9th for Haas. I think he'd be a little bit disappointed with that given where he started, but it is still a couple more points on the board for him. And picking up that last point was Sergio Perez in the Force India. Stoffel Van Dorn came home in 11th place, just missing out on that last point. Lance Stroll in 12th for Williams. Pierre Gasly crossed the line in 10th place, but ended up with a penalty after an incident with Sergio Perez, which again I will cover a little bit later, but ended up finishing in 13th. And Sergei Sorokin was the last to cross the line for Williams. And your British Grand Prix retirements list then, Verstappen had a brake-by-wire issue. He ended up in a spin and that finished his race off. Disappointed for him because he was looking pretty stellar up to that point, to be fair. Carlos Sainz and Romain Grosjean, we'll talk about them very, very shortly, as we will with Ericsson and Leclerc. And Brendan Hartley, quite frankly, his weekend just never got going. A huge crash on Saturday, and despite getting out briefly for the race, he retired very soon after. When it comes to the race talking points, there really is only one place to start, and that is with that incident between Kimi Räikkönen and Lewis Hamilton at turn 3 on lap 1. Hamilton got a poor start off the line and was beaten by Sebastian Vettel. He was also passed by teammate Valtteri Bottas and came under pressure from Kimi Räikkönen. However, heading into turn 3, the Finn made a mistake by locking up his tyre, which resulted in him hitting Hamilton, putting the world champion into a spin and saw the Mercedes drop to the back of the field. Now, neither car had any real significant damage, although both drivers were complaining of problems for a while after the incident. But as you've just seen in the race result, Hamilton recovered very well to finish in 2nd place, and Kimi Räikkönen still managed to finish in 3rd. So whatever issues they felt they had clearly didn't deter them too much. The stewards decided to give Kimi Räikkönen a 10-second time penalty, and after the Grand Prix, the Finn took full responsibility for the incident. I'm not going to go too much into the penalty situation, as I am going to be covering some of the FIA inconsistencies with penalties in a video very soon. However, I am absolutely baffled by how that incident warrants a 10-second penalty, but Vettel's incident with Bottas in France was only worthy of a 5-second penalty. When you consider the damage done to Bottas's car versus that done to Hamilton, it really is odd that Räikkönen got a heftier penalty. I mean, some are saying that it could be because Vettel's race was compromised massively in France, whereas Räikkönen almost came off lightly, you could say. But for me, that should make no difference, because at the end of the day, where do you draw the line? Perhaps the FIA need to be looking at a set penalty for causing a collision, or just at least try and be consistent with it. But don't get me wrong, and having said all of that, for me, it was the right penalty, just as it was for Verstappen in China, and I still believe that should have been the same penalty for Vettel in France. It's just yet more inconsistency from the FIA, and you can completely understand why people get frustrated and criticise them so heavily. As I say, I will be going over that in depth in a future video, but do let me know your thoughts on that penalty in the comment section down below. There is also talk of a conspiracy or dirty tactics from Ferrari, but that is rubbish, absolute rubbish. And the accusations are just laughable, quite frankly. That move by Kimi was not deliberate in any way, shape or form. And to be perfectly honest, I think people are giving Ferrari way too much credit here. You know, what are we saying? Ferrari somehow knew that Lewis Hamilton would have a bad start and end up behind Vettel and Bottas? That they went out and planned a way for Räikkönen to hit the Mercedes without causing race-ending damage to either car? And going back to France, Ferrari asked Vettel, their main championship contender, to jeopardise his race and possibly the title by taking out a Mercedes that probably isn't really in the title fight anymore. I mean, really, come on, people. At the end of the day, if there were tactics being played in any way by Ferrari at this stage of the season, Vettel would have been swapped with Räikkönen in Austria and finished second. There is nothing going on. It was a lock-up from the fin, he hit the Mercedes and was given a penalty. He's apologised, he's accepted full responsibility, and at the end of the day, it's called racing and contact is an inevitable part of it. It always has been and always will be. Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes didn't really help matters after the race. They made comments that led to a lot of criticism from fans. The Brit claimed interesting tactics from the Scuderia, and Toto Wolff, quoting James Allison, said that it was either incompetence or deliberate. But as I've already said, total nonsense. However, since Sunday, Hamilton has accepted Kimi's apology for the incident, and the Mercedes driver has admitted that the comments he made post-race were dumb. In fact, his exact quote was, "Kimi said sorry and I accept it and we move on. It was a racing incident and nothing more. Sometimes we say dumb shit and we learn from it." So, there we go. Even Lewis Hamilton has backed down from the claims of a deliberate move from Ferrari, so end of, move on. There were, of course, a few other incidents during the race. Grosjean and Carlos Sainz came together after the first safety car restart. Sainz tried to go around the outside of Grosjean at Copse, put a little bit of a squeeze on him, but the Frenchman lost his car and the two made contact and they both crashed out. It was investigated by race stewards, but no action was taken, and having seen it a few times now, I have to agree. Yeah, okay, Sainz pinched Grosjean, but he did leave just enough room, and I mean just enough room, and Haas also got a snap of oversteer, and that was pretty much that. Both played their part, if you like, and so for me, it was a racing incident all day long. But that wasn't the only incident that Grosjean was involved in during the race. He also managed to have contact with teammate Kevin Magnussen. According to Haas, their drivers made contact whilst trying to avoid the incident between Räikkönen and Hamilton, and it's something that Gunther Steiner is understandably fuming about, and the team have once again potentially lost big points this weekend. Marcus Ericsson, he had a big crash at turn 1, DRS wide open, and as he went to turn into the corner, the back end went round, and he hit the wall with a fair whack. After the race, the Swede said that his hand had slipped, and he missed the button to close the DRS just before the corner, and that was pretty much that. Sauber have said that they are going to consider making changes to their steering wheels in the future to avoid it happening again. But all in all, it was a miserable end to what was another promising weekend for Sauber. Charles Leclerc pitted for fresh rubber and was released. However, shortly after exiting the pit, the youngster pulled over with a loose wheel, and that was the end of his weekend. Just to let you know as well, the team have since been fined for an unsafe release. As I said during the rundown of the race result, Pierre Gasly was handed a post-race penalty following an incident with Sergio Perez. There was contact between the two as they entered club corner on that penultimate lap, and Gasly made the move stick and crossed the line in 10th place but was demoted to 13th. I think it's a bit of an understatement to say that he wasn't happy, and to be honest, I do feel it was a little bit harsh. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can kind of see it from the steward's point of view. You know, he's gained that position and kept that position by making contact. But it's not like he slammed him into a wall or shoved him into the gravel trap. It's racing, there's gonna be contact. If we want wheel-to-wheel action, that's an inevitability. It's getting to a point where drivers are getting punished for every single bit of contact at the minute. So again, although I get it from the steward's point of view, and I guess from Perez's point of view as well, I can't say that I agree with the decision, and I do think it was very harsh. Let's move on then to my driver of the day. The official driver of the day went to Lewis Hamilton for a great comeback drive. And to be honest, I kind of have to agree. It was a very strong recovery, and okay, it was a Merc versus a much slower midfield, But still, as I often say at this point, credit where credit is due. What I will add though, is that comeback drive from Lewis Hamilton has highlighted the gaping chasm between the front three teams and the midfield. That needs to be closed because it was just far too easy to come back through the field. And although there's always been that gap, this year it does very much feel as though we've got a Class A and a Class B, and that's not what we want. But as you'll all know by now, I like to pick a driver of the day outside of the top three teams where possible, and this time I've gone for Nico Hülkenberg. The Renault driver took his car to a 6th place finish from 11th on the grid, and that is some hefty points in their battle for 4th in the Constructors. Yeah, alright, safety cars and retirements of course have helped him out massively, but still, 6th place is a great result for him and for the team as well. But a couple of honourable mentions if you like. Esteban Ocon, he had a very good day grabbing 7th for Force India, and as you'll see in just a moment, that was big for the team in the championship. And once again, Fernando Alonso again delivering on race day, P13 to P8, and more points on the board for him and McLaren at the end of what has been a very turbulent week for the Woking team. Before I go though, let's have a look at the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship, and Sebastian Vettel has extended his lead to 8 points over Lewis Hamilton. That battle is going to rage all season. Kimi Räikkönen remains in 3rd place with Daniel Ricciardo in 4th. Valtteri Bottas climbs 1 place to 5th, Max Verstappen falling to 6th after his DNF. Nico Hülkenberg a couple of points clear of Fernando Alonso, he climbs to 7th with the Spaniard up to 8th. K-Mag, despite picking up points, drops down to 9th place, and Carlos Sainz rounds out the top 10 for Renault. In the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari now 20 points clear of Mercedes, another battle that is going to rage on all year. Red Bull in 3rd place, and to be fair, not a million miles away from Ferrari or Mercedes. Renault are in 4th place, beginning to pull away from Haas in 5th. Force India leap up to 6th place ahead of McLaren, who slipped to 7th. Toro Rosso sits in 8th place, 3 points clear of Sauber, and Williams continue to prop up the table with 4 points. That is it then for the British Grand Prix review, and as ever they were just my thoughts and opinions on it all, but what are yours? How did you rate the 2018 British Grand Prix? Who was your driver of the day? And of course, don't forget to let me know your take on the incident between Räikkönen and Hamilton. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Now, as I mentioned during the impromptu channel update stream last night, there are going to be some changes going forward. Essentially, if you missed that, I'm just going to be taking the channel back to what it's supposed to be about, and that is putting opinions right back at its core. As I said yesterday, that is what I wanted the content to be all about, and over recent weeks, it's certainly wandered away from that. And quite frankly, I'm not entirely happy with it. So I will be back soon with more content as ever, but in the meantime, don't forget to follow me on social media for updates on those changes. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.